Hello, this is Chandler Arrington, Aaron Knox, and Miguel Gutierrez, and this is our final video presentation for managerial organizational behavior for the fall of 2017. As Dee Hock, the founder and former CEO of Visa Credit Card, once said, an organization, no matter how well designed, is only as good as the people who live and work in it. In other words, an organization will only ever be as successful as the desire for the people to want that success. This has been an overlying theme as we went through this semester as we learned about organizational behavior. The six most important concepts or topics we have learned most about are emotional intelligence, self-efficacy theory, job satisfaction, decision-making, the five-stage model, and the communication process. We will end this presentation with questions that still remain and resonate with us even after a semester of learning this material. Our first topic is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can be broken into three main points. It is based on a person's ability to perceive emotions within themselves, or in other words, to be self-aware, understanding the meaning of those emotions, and more significantly, a person's ability to regulate their emotions. Generally speaking, people who have high emotional intelligence can read emotional cues and are more likely to be effective in their respective jobs and increase job performance. You can tie these three abilities together to accomplish a high emotional intelligence. As you can see from the cascading model, being conscientious or perceiving your own emotions will lead to a person being cognitive or understanding the meaning of their emotions, and one's emotional stability or knowing how to regulate their emotions will lead to success. The next topic we learned from this course is self-efficacy theory. This is an individual's belief that he or she is capable of performing a task. Albert Bandura, the developer of self-efficacy theory, defined four characteristics: enactive mastery, or gaining relevant experience with the task or job; vicarious modeling, or becoming more confident because you see someone else doing the task; verbal persuasion, occurring when a person is more confident because someone convinces him that he has the skills; and arousal, which leads to an energized state driving a person to complete the task. Individuals that are high in self-efficacy also respond better to negative feedback and in turn use that as motivation to perform better, and vice versa with those low in self-efficacy. In other words, high self-efficacy will lead to confidence in their performance. As shown in the image, Bandura has made it clear that the influences of external factors like performance accomplishments, vicarious learning, social persuasion, and emotional arousal will all combine together to affect one's persistence, performance, and approach versus avoidance.
The next topic is job satisfaction. Job satisfaction is a positive feeling about a job resulting from an evaluation of its characteristics. A job is more than shifting papers, waiting on customers, and driving trucks. There are two ways to measure job satisfaction. The first one is called single global rating, which means all things considered from scale 1 being highly satisfied to scale 5 being highly dissatisfied. The second approach is called summation of job facets, which is a more sophisticated as it identifies key elements in the job such as the nature of work supervision, present pay, promotion opportunities, and relationship with coworkers. The second one is more specific, but there is no research that indicates which approach is better. What causes job satisfaction? Think about the best job you've ever had and what made it so. An European study stated that job satisfaction is positively correlated with life satisfaction, attitudes and experiences that spill over into the job area. There's also four responses to this dissatisfaction: exit, voice, loyalty, and neglect, which are going to be discussed on the next slide. This chart represents the four responses to dissatisfaction. Exit. The exit response directs behavior toward leaving the organization, including looking for a new position as well as resigning. The next one to the left is voice. The voice response includes actively and constructively attempting to improve conditions, including suggesting improvements, discussing problems with superiors, etc. Then, beneath voice, we have loyalty. The loyalty response means passively but optimistically waiting for conditions to improve, including speaking up for the organization in the face of external criticism. Then to the right, we have neglect. The neglect response passively allows conditions to worsen and includes chronic absenteeism or lateness, reduced effort, and increased error rate. The next topic is decision making. There are three main types of how decisions can be made. The first one is the rational decision making, which describes how individuals should behave in order to maximize some outcome. And there are 6 steps that undergo this decision-making process, which is define the problem, identify the decision, allocate the weights, develop the alternatives, evaluate the alternatives, and then select the best alternative. The second is the bounded rationality. It's a process of making decisions by constructing simplified models that extract the essential features from problems without capturing all their complexity. And the third and last one is the intuitive decision making, which is an unconscious process created out of distilled experience. Reducing biases and errors can be accomplished by focusing on goals, looking for information that disconfirms your beliefs. Don't try to create meanings out of random events, and increase your options. We also have to take into account that there are individual differences that affect decision making, which is personality, gender, mental ability, and different cultural differences.
Our next topic is the 5-stage model. It is composed of 5 stages: the forming stage, storming stage, norming stage, performing stage, and adjourning stage. This chart shows the flow from one stage to the next. The forming stage is characterized by uncertainty about the group's purpose, structure, and leadership. Group members find what behaviors are acceptable, and the stage is complete when members think of themselves as a group. Next is the storming stage. In this stage, members accept the existence of the group but resist the constraints because it imposes on individuality. In this stage, there is conflict over who the leader will be, and the stage is complete when there will be a relatively clear hierarchy of leadership in the group. The norming stage is a segment of group formation where close relationships form and cohesiveness is demonstrated. There is a strong sense of group identity. This stage is complete when the group structure solidifies and the group has created a common set of expectations and behaviors. The performing stage is where the structure of the group is fully functional and group energy is focused towards completing tasks rather than getting to know each other. The adjourning stage is for wrapping up activities. Groups that start out with a strong sense of purpose go through the stages rapidly and achieve high performance, whereas those with less sense of purpose see their performance get worse over time. The communication process is our next topic. This describes the steps between a source and a receiver that result in the transfer and understanding of meaning. The key parts of this process are the sender encoding the message, the channel decoding, the receiver, noise, and feedback. There are formal channels, which are communication channels established by an organization to transmit messages related to the professional activities of members, and informal channels, which are communication channels that are created spontaneously and that emerge as responses to individual choices. This chart depicts the communication process. The sender initiates a message by encoding a thought. The message is the actual physical product of the sender's encoding. This can be through speech, writing, gestures, or expressions. The channel is the medium through which the message travels. The sender chooses whether to use informal or informal channels. Formal channels follow the authority chain within the organization, and informal channels are more personal or social. The receiver is the person to whom the message is being directed. The receiver must decode the message or make it understandable. Noise is a factor in the communication process which can distort the message. Noise can be things such as perceptual problems, information overload, or cultural differences. Finally, the last part of the communication process is the feedback loop. Feedback checks on how successful the message has been transferred, and it determines whether understanding has been achieved.
After a semester of learning managerial organizational behavior, 3 questions that still remain for us are as follows. The word conflict notoriously comes across with such a negative connotation and is often avoided, but can conflict also help improve an organization or business? Number 2, since effective communication creates a more cohesive work environment, Can it also be an aid in group formation? And lastly, does a business need to have its identity defined in order for it to be successful? As Brad Henry once said, a good teacher can inspire hope, ignite imagination, and instill a love for learning. And for that, we thank you for a great semester, Dr. Drape.